I consider myself to be neurodivergent in a larger sense of the word. Um, I would say my mind has been quite obsessive um, ever since I was born. That kind of triggers my kind of larger spiritual awakening throughout my life. And Yeah, I guess this was perfectly suited to an academic life in my previous academic career, which I am in the process of closing. I would say that kind of obsession, obsessive focus on particular topics was, I think, an advantage. You need to be very structured, forward thinking. What's the next step? X, Y, and Z. You can look down years down the track. Of course, there are things that you need to adapt as you go along, but it's a very structured way of thinking where, especially when you're leading a group of researchers, you're always thinking, okay, what's in the past, what's currently happening, reading a lot, and then planning. So your mind is, yeah, to a large extent focused on the future. You're writing grounds, you're trying to get money for the future product, future project, future experiment, future everything. Of course, you need to analyze what's there right now, but it's always, for the person that is actually planning everything, you're largely in the future instead of just being on the ground and working in the lab. So after I've done this for a number of years, it's quite a change to deviate from that. Now, coming back to this neurodivergence, I heard quite a few people on social media discussing neurodivergence in the context of, well, spiritual evolution, or at least societal evolution. And I tend to agree, like it definitely shapes or reshapes society, or at least has the potential to. Now, of course, you need to probably distinguish different neurodivergent traits. So if you're thinking ADHD, like over zealous, overactive mind, that can also result in a very physical anchoring. So you're always thinking about now, creating, doing. It's all physical. So although it can trigger some kind of spiritual awakening, if it becomes too painful to be attached with the material world, especially when things are taken from you. So if you constantly obsessively trying to do something and it doesn't work, then it can create this kind of break where you snap out of it, and then suddenly this overactive mind paired with a higher mind can then expand in the spiritual world very rapidly. But I think it's more, the inability to fit in. And so if you're not fitting in, unless you're forcing yourself to, which is going to result probably in a miserable life, if you're not exactly forcing yourself to fit into something you're naturally fitting into, you will, just by living your own example, or staying true to yourself, you will create something that is not present in today's society. And if there's enough people, if there's a threshold of people that are different, this will reshape society, because you will naturally build something that is appropriate for you, where you fit in. Although I don't like that particular word, but you will create something that's suited to you, to your traits, to your character, to your particular way of being, whether you can stay attentive to something or not, whether you can multitask a dozen things at the same time, whether you get easily bored, whether you're sensitive to overly like environments that are too stimulating. You cannot deal with too many stimuli at the same time. A bit more autistic, a bit more like I need this, but also overly sensitive. You will shape your surroundings and your life and your environment and the people you invite in your environment in a way that suits you, and this will, if enough people are doing that, will reshape society. In my mind, whatever category it fits into, whether you can attach a syndrome on it or a particular tendency, I don't particularly value any of these stamps, because what does it tell you? Like, oh, you're not normal. Like, some people seem to benefit from it, that finally they have something to explain why they perhaps didn't succeed as they wished to, or weren't allowed to follow the path they wanted to. I don't particularly put any value on these. I think it's important to understand yourself and how you are, and live true to that. Whether it ticks a particular box in the textbook or not, it's, I think, to a large extent, completely irrelevant. It doesn't matter, because you have your experience. You are your normal. So maybe there's a large part of society that is not normal to you. And so if you had to write a textbook about other people, maybe you would say, oh my God, these people, they're just kind of dumb, they are able to focus on a thing. They can't multitask. They can do that, and that. That's really boring, or that's kind of really monotonous, or something like that. So it's always a matter of perspective. So if you think you belong to kind of a neurodivergent pattern, well, I think that makes you somewhat special. Of course, no one's special, that's what I'm saying. But like, it's something to not necessarily put down. You should be proud of it, because first of all, it's more challenging. So you are most likely a more advanced soul, because you chose to actually experience something that is more challenging. So just fit in society, marry, have kids, have a house, have a dog, all the things that are very mainstream. Maybe your life looks different. Maybe you started a path, jumped on another one, and you're still jumping, perhaps. So congratulations for that. So for me, definitely, the fact that I am neurodivergent, well, I'm not sure I forced anything. I don't think I forced the path of academia. I realized that, well, part of my mind, the one that really wants to focus, wants to understand things, was very well suited to it. But then, because my neurodivergence very, very early on in my life led to a almost immediate spiritual awakening, or at least I was so confused that I definitely never accepted my surroundings, my world. I thought it was so weird, it didn't make any sense. So it's not that I had to kind of break out of it, because I was never in it, so to speak. So my particular way of how my brain is wired and the experience I gained from it, although very, very challenging, has been and is continuing to be a blessing. It doesn't allow me to fit in. I always think differently. I also kind of started to resent mainstream science, just the science for the sake of doing science without any really higher perspective, just publishing papers for the sake of publishing papers so that you kind of somewhere on a list of eminent scientists, that's just doing science for the sake of doing science, not science for the sake of advancing humanity, advancing our understanding of reality or anything like that. So I kind of started to resent a bit that kind of mainstream scientific, materialistic aspect of science. So now now that I decided, also based on natural changes, children moving out of the house, being able to be more independent, being able to move physically, location-wise. I'm embracing currently a pretty significant life change. I want to finally pursue what I think I'm supposed to do, my higher purpose, which is, in the largest sense, again, to be a healer, to be a way shower, content creator, to attract perhaps those people that would benefit from my help. And as I typically say, it definitely creates another round of challenging interactions with my mind. So as the healing is, it's everything's circular. It's like an upward spiral. There's always phases where you're very comfortable with something. You think you healed it. Well, you think you dealt it, or you think you know how to manage it. And then suddenly your life circumstances change, and then suddenly you facing again with like, oh, hang on, so that piece doesn't fit in anymore, so everything is reshaped, and then suddenly the piece that was perfectly that you perfectly reshaped to fit in suddenly doesn't fit in at all. And so now my mind is, I wouldn't say rebelling, but it's definitely having a little bit of a hissy fit. Because now it doesn't have that outlet of, let's plan the future, let's write grants, let's think about projects, let's do something, let's create something. It's particularly challenging because I want to, when I'm creating content, want to come from a space of channeling, a space of being in the present moment, without any agenda. And of course I'm thinking about what I might say, or like, oh, today I really feel like talking about this, but it's more like an inspiration. I'm doing something else, I'm going to the gym, or I'm grabbing a coffee somewhere, and then I let inspiration take in. I'm like, oh, that would be a nice topic to think about. And then of course I'm thinking about things where, how would I approach that topic, what would I talk about? But it's not scripted. It's like the broader strokes are there. Maybe it would be nice to talk about this, and maybe about myself and this experience. But as I'm doing right now, I'm talking like in the present moment. I'm channeling whatever wants to come through. And this is where my mind doesn't like that. First of all, content creator, okay, we need to set rules, right? We need to create content every day, every 2 days, every 3 days, and then go at it systematically. Let's create lists of content we could share, lists of things we could say, and so there's a lot of traps there that my mind, not really traps, but I'm just seeing how my mind is trying to put its stamp on things. It tries to put its footprint on it, and it doesn't like let's be present in the now, let's channel, because then it has nothing to do. It offers no real value, or at least it's not in pole position. It's It's not the most important thing. So it is rebelling to some extent. Um, and it's sneaky, the mind is it's a sneaky little bully, because then I create content, I'm channeling things, it's all in the moment, feels great. Um, and even if I can mostly achieve that, it's more that I'm thinking about, like, the mind is a bit more present than it used to be. It's like, oh, I noticed something I didn't notice. It's not like I have a massive struggle with my mind. I'm advanced enough to not. It's not really a struggle anymore, but I notice things. It's very subtle, but it's once you advance, those subtle things. They are, although they're subtle, they're not subtle at the same time because they're so noticeable. Because once you fine tune your intuition and everything, you're very attuned to your energetic state, and then, like, if there's a slight disharmony there, or it's like an energy that's, there's something there, it gets immediately my attention, because otherwise, like in a very harmonious symphony, if you just have one little instrument that, like, hang on, you can immediately hear it. You just, like, there's something there, and so you hone in on it. And so it is sneaky sometimes, because if I really channel content, and there's some satisfaction in there, and there might be a mind aspect to that satisfaction as well, and there's nothing wrong with that, of course, because it's like you always need to be proud of yourself, if you do things, or if something is challenging at first, so you don't want to do it, but you do it, like, you need to tap yourself on the back. It's a lot of neurodivergent people are also very perfectionist. I'm a high perfectionist, so everything needs to be perfect. So there's also that aspect that I'm really avoiding in what I'm doing, because it can't be perfect. If I'm channeling, I might just stumble on a few words. English is not my native language, but it's the one that feels more natural to me. Since I lived 15 years in New Zealand, so I'm thinking more in English. I talk to my children in English, so English is more, although it's not my native language, it's the one that I'm most comfortable with. So yeah, I might stumble off on a few words, I might just forget a few things, but it shouldn't remove any type of joy if you do similar things. You should never beat yourself up just because, that wasn't perfect. Otherwise you end up doing nothing, because if I had to re-edit all of my videos, I would spend hours or days on something, it would still not be perfect, and then so you need to tap yourself on the back. But yeah, coming back to that sneaky aspect of the mind, so you put something out there, and it was channeled, it was in the moment, and that felt incredible. Then you post it, and then the mind pops up like, oh yeah, we should do that again and again. So it's like there's still that aspect of, let's do something, let's just recreate something. It wants to be active, it wants to be valued, it wants to be like, hey, you know what I can do here? I can try to make that happen again. It wants to plan ahead, like, oh yeah, let's plan to channel something in the future. It's bullshit, right? So it's like, it's the mind sneaking in, like, oh, I could help with this, It's like a little helper, that wants to help everywhere, and you actually don't need, no, sorry, I don't need you, yeah, I'm good, but I can help you with that, yeah, sure you can. So that's kind of my current challenge, to listen to that little voice, that little helper that wants to pop in, because it realized, oh, hang on, but you don't really use me that much if you do that now. You switch your life, and now what am I supposed to do? So it's kind of an interesting thing that I'm going through, and of course there's also the mind aspect of social media in general, right? The mind wants to check, how many views and how many likes, and let's look at at the analytics and all that stuff. So it seems to be a very growth intense phase in my life, where a lot of things that I not theorized, because everything I'm talking about, everything I wrote in my book, these are things that I know deep inside. So there's one aspect that is rooted in there. But sometimes there are phases in your life where all of these things suddenly need strong implementation. Okay, there is no such thing as linear time, staying in the moment, energetic embodiment. All of this didn't require that much implementation in a year ago in my life, because everything was different. It was always on my mind as I was trying to put together the ideas of the book based on all the notes that I wrote throughout the years. But now it's really the phase of implementation. And there seems to be a general trend as well. If I look at, well, the type of social media I'm looking into, right? My algorithm knows me, so it's going to be always more on the spiritual side, on the tarot reading, oracle side, on content creators that are of spiritual nature, all of that. In that context, there's definitely a trend towards there's something happening. There's something where we're reaching a next phase where there's a increase in intensity in things that are happening. And intensity, yeah, it is in a good way, of course, but also challenging way. There are things that are happening that require now all the skill sets, all the skills that we built throughout the last years or perhaps decades, they now all come to the forefront. Now it's time to show what you've learned. It's time to implement. It's no more talking, no more. Now it's really about showing and fully embodying energetically what we want to be, how we want to live, the future we see. Again, not thinking about the future, but energetic embodiment for manifestation. The kind of planet we want to create. Of course, there's also the entire outside influences, outside factors like wars and things like that. Of course, that requires also to be very grounded so that you don't get caught up in when all these different, like fractions fighting each other, or different opinions, different beliefs, different political parties, allegiances. Now is the time where all of that comes together, and we need to stand our ground, and we need to, like in your ground, meaning you need to stay true to yourself. What is your truth? Perhaps you've been working on it, or you've been identifying, who am I? You've been regaining your power, reclaiming your power, reclaiming yourself. And now it's time to live it. It's time to put everything into practice, put everything on the table, and just let's go. And I seem to be in that collective that is undergoing a massive shift. And it also requires trust. It's this kind of every phase of change is always shaky, because nothing is settled, nothing is set. You're out of your comfort zone, and sometimes you just have to wing it, and sometimes I need to be more careful if I'm getting tired, or my mind kicks in, and then suddenly I'm back in the future or in the past. I'm like, okay, come back. No judgment, no nothing, just come back. We haven't created content in like 2 days. hang on, what are we talking about? Yeah, hang on. Let's just center, calm down. It's either it comes from a state of flow, or it doesn't, or we don't do it. It's like a black and white thing. I'm unwilling to go back. It's hard enough to make the decision, but there is this part of me that drags me through all of this, that pushes me, and that thing is relentless. So I'm never gonna stop. This is a make or break. But also make or break, not in a, oh yeah, you might lose everything. No. That shouldn't even be on my energetic radar, or on yours either. This is implementing embodiment, visualization, and there is a slight mental aspect to all of these things, where like if you're talking about visualization, manifestation, there is the element of choice. So there's always the choice of being stressed out, being scared about the future, being scared about finances, being scared about anything. There's so many things you could be scared about. But there is an element, a mental choice. This is not what we're going for. If these things pop up your head, no, this is not what we're choosing. We're not choosing this anymore. You are a soul embodied in a human mind, a human body with a human mind. The mind will have, there's always going to be the mind. You can't kill your mind. You can't fully release the ego. These are all part of your physical embodiment. And this is also the reason why you're where you are right now. All the challenges that these things gave you led you to where you are right now, and now you can choose. You can make informed choices. You are informed. You have grown. You're not like the person you were 5 years ago or even 1 year ago. You're completely different. You have a strength to choose. You know what choice to do. It's just a matter of sticking to your choice. So there is an aspect of mental strength and resilience embedded into it. At least for me, I can sense it. I could make the choice to go back, to revert back. There's always the choice, because although you have this energetic, like, breadth that you have, everything that you experience, like this life and past lives, all of this, that energy, these energies, because you lived them before, you embodied them before. Everything you've embodied before, you can choose to re-embody. It's part of your spectrum of choices. And you have free will. You can always embody whatever you want. But something in me drags me or tells me, okay, this is the right direction there. And then I just need to be in sync with my mind, say, okay, this is where we're headed. Choice is made. Let's go. So you might be in a similar situation where you have a slightly obsessive, overactive, neurodivergent mind. Congratulations, we're in the same club. And you might face the same challenges I'm facing right now. I'm not sure if you're similarly breaking with former patterns, lives, work lines of work, location, everything, perhaps everything at once, like I'm currently experiencing. So hang in there. We're doing the right work. If you're listening to this, it's likely that you are part of that same collective. And so if I can give you some, I wouldn't say comfort, but at least it's if I hear people that go through similar things, it gives me comfort. Actually, it is comforting. It's like, okay, let's hang in there. We're all going through the same things, and I believe in energetic. We all influence each other. So we're part of a collective that can support each other, even by just doing the best we can with ourselves at the same time. That's it's not about helping each other necessarily actively. It's just about being yourself and doing the best you can do right now, and staying true to yourself. So much love to all of you that might be in similar situation, or you're just listening to this because it sounds entertaining to you. There's no judgment. So hang in there, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.